11 and verse 1. We're going to talk about the Trinity of Humanity tonight. The Trinity of Humanity. Now, I've drawn this chart up here like this for you at least 1,000 times over the last 45 years.
I finally get it now.
You got it now? You got it.
I can write it without having to go to your little thing you gave me.
All right. How many of you, can you do that, Pamela? Can you do this? Can you do the Trinity of man, the Trinity of God, and the Trinity of angels? You can do that? Good. All right. We're talking about the body, the mind, which contains the soul, and we're talking about spirit. Now, this means a lot. God is Trinity, and He's triune. I don't like to use the word Trinity so much time because I don't want you seeing three gods, because we don't have three gods. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is Ahad, one, not three. But He's manifest to us in a triune way. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Lakota.
Oh.
Do it in Lakota.
I know I listened
Wakantanka, Takashila, Skan Taku, Skan Skan. All right. All right. And it is in Hebrew. Basar.
I don't know that.
Basar.
Bazaar.
Ruach.
Ruah.
All right. Nephesh.
Nefish.
Greek.
Carne.
That's Latin.
Oh, sorry.
See, you got one more. See, y'all get you really confused with too many languages. All right.
Maybe Sarks.
Sarks. Numa.
And
Psyche. Psyche.
Oh,
Psyche. All right, so there we have. We have the Trinity. We have angels. We have the Trinity of angels. But look at this. In the material realm, the spiritual realm, and the intellectual realm. Okay? Who's over the material realm, or who was over the material realm?
Lucifer.
Lucifer. Who replaced Lucifer?
Adam.
Adam. Think about that one for a little while. Just let it jar you. What was Adam over? Material realm. All right. Spiritual realm. Michael.
Michael.
Okay.
And then Gabriel.
The intellectual is Gabe. Okay, Gabriel. Let's look at that. Michael, Gabriel, Lucifer. And man took the place of Lucifer. He put him over his material creation. Now they're spirits in the same thing. Over the spiritual realm. What kind of orders of angels do we have? Cherubim, seraphim,
and
archangels that we know of. I mean, we maybe just know a little particle of intelligence about this, but those terms we know. Okay? Seraphim.
and wings.
Seraphim. Seraphim. What about seraphim? What's that root of that seraphim, Brother Roger? Remember seraphim? Fire. Fire. Like fire. Energy. Okay? Cherubim. Cherubim. Cherubim.
With the wings, right?
That's the wings. And that's wind. Wings. Okay? And then archangels. Archangels. That is a real high angel. Archangel. What is the only Bible, angel in the Bible is called an archangel? Michael. But we believe that there are three orders. Michael, Gabriel, and Lucifer. Now, did all of Lucifer's people go with him? All of his spiritual and the spirit forces and angelic forces? No. We think about 1/3 of them went with him, and 2/3 of them are still here. Some of Michael's, the most dangerous angels that left were the spirits in the spiritual realm, okay? The realm of mind, or spirit, that is. And then many of these, evidently, in this realm right here, did some pretty powerful things, and locked up right now, aren't they? Along with some of the angels that cohabited with womankind. Okay? Now, let's look at something. Let's read a couple of verses in Hebrew. Why yehi kol haaretz safar achath you divarim akadim and he became all earth language ahad. That's the way it was. That's the way it originally, the earth's language was one language, ahad, one language. One safar, one language, one. And then it says, and words, yudavarim, and words, one. Same ones, literally, same ones. The words were the same ones. Everybody's words were the same. Wasn't that a simple world at that time? Well, that was a very simple world. Now we have a trinity of races, don't we? What is the trinity of races? Body. Physical. Who? Who's in the physical realm? Races.
Humans? What are you talking about? I'm confused.
Races of man. Who is in the physical realm? What race of man is in the physical realm? Physical. Ham. I should have started out other. That would be easier. What race of mankind is in the spirit realm? Over the spirit realm. The spiritual things. Shem. What race of man is over the mind, over the intellectual things? Japheth. Yeah. Okay, or Japhetto, as they say in Greek. All right. Ham, Shem, and Japheth.
Where does that come from?
We're going to look at this real good.
I've never heard of that.
You weren't here before. Roger, do you remember me teaching this before? All right. Nobody's here that was here before. All right, guess what? I get to teach you guys like you're in kindergarten.
That's awesome.
The trinity of the races of humankind. If all of these Southern Baptists 200 years ago ever wanted to have a foundation of segregation, this would have been it, but they didn't think of it. If they ever have a foundation of segregation, this would be the basis of it. Now let's go on a little bit further. We're going to see even more. Material, physical. Physical and material. We're going to look at this real close. I know you're going to learn a lot from this. Okay? This is really a giant step under understanding how God made mankind. Wayihi, Beni Seim, Mikadem, Wayim, Wayu, that is. Oh, no, remember. I'm looking at the wrong word. Wayemsu. Vika, Beretz, Shinar, Waye Shivu, Sham. And it became, in their pulling up tent stakes, that's what it's talking about, pulling up tent stakes. How many of you ever went camping with tents? Abraham was a constant, well, he was a full-time RVer. Abraham was a full-time RVer. So he was pulling up tent stakes all the time. Even Isaac was a full-time RVer, pulling up tent stakes all the time. Jacob was a full-time RVer, pulling up tent stakes all the time. That's what it's talking about, pulling up tent stakes. Mikadim. Mikadim means what? Remember what this means? Last Sunday night, Sharon, you remember this one? I know you were so sick you couldn't hardly think. Mickadine.
It says eastward, so that would be, is that to the east
Yeah, that's to the east, to the front.
of the front?
The front of the day is east. Remember what I told you this morning about the Mahdi? When the Mahdi's going to come, what's the Mahdi going to do? The Imam the Mahdi. He's going to change where the sun comes up in the west instead of the east. The book of Daniel says he's going to do what? Change times and seasons. He's going to change the calendar. He's going to do everything. This Mahdi's going to do this. And then the beast is going to help him. And then I give you the description of this beast this morning. The beast of the book of the Quran. Mickadine from the east. And then it says, and they found and kept on finding an open space, a prairie, a plain. This vikah, this prairie, inland of Shinar. And they drove down tent stakes. Permanently. They drove down tent stakes permanently. Now, I want you to just look at something for a minute. God could not trust humankind for one race of people to have all of these attributes in the same race. Couldn't trust them. To be intellectual, spiritual, and physical all in one. Why? They would have controlled the world. Now we have that right here, this one world religion. And these are the Hamites. The Hamites are the ones that led out in everything. These are the ones, the masters of the land are the Hamites. The masters of the land. The masters of inventions are the Hamites. The masters of all physical realm are the Hamites. The masters of the, what we call the medical realm are the Hamites. The masters of the, what we might call medicine, the herbs are the Hamites. Just think about that. Now, did they do that? When a guy has a thesis about something, what we call a theory, it has to be proven in history. We talked about this morning about the amillennialists and postmillennial and their ideas of theory. What the difference between a postmillennialist, an amillennialist, and a premillennialist is the interpretation. How do you interpret the Bible? And the only way you can become a postmillennial or a what we call postmillennial or amillennial is by spiritualizing the scriptures instead of interpreting them literally. The difference between, and this is where people think that the millennium is going to be a long way off. Long way off. Long way off. The Bible teaches that we're coming quickly to a close right here. You can study the book of Revelation. We're in what church age? Are we in Ephesus? No, we're in Laodicea, which is the seventh, the last church age. What did Augustine teach? What did he teach?
680.
Huh?
680 would be the millennium.
Yeah, 650 A.D. was going to be actually that we're in the millennium, that the Lord, that actually the eternal age would start in 650 A.D. Because if you look at the calendar from the Septuagint standpoint, mankind had already been on the earth for 6,000 years before Christ ever came. Christ is going to come in, and he said Christ set up his kingdom, and he's going to rule this kingdom, and he's going to evangelize the whole world, and the whole world will become Christians, and the kingdom will be God's. And it would happen by 650, 645 A.D. Well, that came and went. So what happened to that theory? So, that's a problem. How about 1000 A.D.? That's a few more years away. We got more time with our little theory, so they went on and went past 1000 A.D., and then what happened? Now we're in the 8th millennium. Now what? What are you going to do with it? They cited the book of Barnabas, said that mankind would rule the earth for 6,000 years, and then Jesus would come. And then we'd have the millennium. That seventh would be the what? The millennium of rest. 6 days God worked, seventh he rested. They had this. This is spiritualizing things, okay? Finally, 2000 AD came, and do these people still believe that? Some people still believe this. Amillennialism and postmillennialism. We talked about that. And this is theology in it. This is theology. And what does this theology tell you? The parable of the mustard tree and the parable of leaven, they said that was good. The Bible talks about the mustard tree as being a monstrosity, not good. And that the devils, the dirty birds that were the devils that ate up the seed, the Word of God, they rested in the great big umbrella monstrosity, which is false religion. But they say that's the truth. And that all religions will come together and they will all rest in this thing at one time and everything's going to get better. And humanity, because of his intelligence, because of the intelligence of man, because he's going to get better and better and better, that God is going to finally, he's going to work through all mankind, and he's going to flame the seed of humanness in every man, and he's going to be a caring creature. And this is what we call humanism, humanistic evolution, until all the world is okay and safe, and then the Lord will come back and bring in his kingdom. Did that work? Has it worked? You think it'll ever work? Now, if you literally interpret the Bible, what's going to happen, Brother Roger?
Even with the removal of Satan, people are still going to be the way they are.
That's right. Now, you have to realize that Augustine said that when Jesus came, that Satan was bound. Is Satan bound? Do you think he's really bound? Is his influence all over? For 1,000 years, Satan's going to be bound. That's after the tribulation period, because Satan's going to be turned loose on this earth. Now, we believe in literal interpretation, don't we? Now, I am not a hyper-dispensationalist. This is a dispensational chart. I don't believe that God saved people in different ways in different times. He only saved mankind one way. Salvation by grace. That's all. Let's go back. I hope I'm not confusing you with all of this theology, the Trinity of humankind. All right. Who was over the spiritual realm? Who was over the spiritual realm of God? No, humans. Huh?
Over here?
Shem. Shem is over the spiritual realm. Shem would be the monument of humanity to bring them back to God. And by the way, they were worthless for anything else, as far as that goes. They've learned to farm. They've learned to be great scientists and everything. These other gifts, but that's not their realm.
And Shem means monument, right?
Shem means name and monument. We're going to see something here. It's going to just jump out and just slap your face and say, "Oh, man, I didn't realize this before." Shem, name, monument, body, Ham. This is a physical word. They were the greatest warriors in the world. When the Anglo-Saxons came to America, these Hamites over here, which was called American Indians, could whoop the socks off of them. They could outshoot them, outfight them. They were the greatest strategists in the world. These people stand shoulder to shoulder and come marching to the Indians, and the Indians say, "Ha, ha, ha." Look at that. And they're all gone pretty soon. I mean, they're all shot down. Besides that, they didn't know how to cook. They didn't know how to eat. They didn't know how to do anything over here. They were beat. But what beat the Indians? Disease and strategy, the mental business, the mental thing. The Indians were very honest people, very spiritual people, very physical people. But they honored their God, and the Europeans, these Anglo-Saxons, now this is in Japhethites' realm. They could make treaties and break them. They could use people because they'd been using people all over the world. They had slaves. They were doing this for thousands of years. They had been doing this. Conquering, going in and conquering where the Hamites were and taking over their culture and forbidding their language and forbidding their customs and changing them to them. American missionaries. For many years, they would go into foreign countries and they would try to change them into middle-class American citizens. They did not respect their culture. They went into different societies and they tried to do this. And they would come to church as long as you had rice or food. The Southern Baptist Convention just flopped, totally flopped in China. They train no people. You go into a country, you train people to be missionaries. You don't go in there. Physical. Brother Madden used to say this. Oh, he was a hardcore case, wasn't he? I mean, you only know him through me, or what you've listened to him say on there. There is a sermon that he did in the philosophy of religion, child behavioral modification. Child behavioral modification. He said if they do something wrong, beat them until they give up. Don't quit beating them until they quit. He said if you have to skin them alive or kill them, just do it. They will change. That's child behavior modification. See, this really works. He said we should never go into any foreign country and do anything for those people if they don't let us preach the gospel. Don't go there. Don't go there. If they don't let you preach the gospel, don't touch it. It's already damned. That's hard stuff, isn't it? If you go there, if you can preach the gospel to them. Preach the gospel to them. But where they won't accept, where you can't preach the gospel, let the devil have them. Just let them be. Don't go play politics with them. Let them be. How many times has America got in trouble in the Islamic countries over this when we try to set up one regime over another? There's a book that Rand Paul put out, Taking a Stand. And he tells you all the mistakes they made from the 1800s to present tense, through all of them, setting up and bringing down regimes. And every one of them does what to us? They cut our throats and hate us in the end. That's just what happens. Doesn't work. We're delving into realms where we don't belong sometimes. Wyomer, Ish, Ri, Ihu, Hava, Nil Binah, Lebanim, We Nishrifa, Lishrifa, Wata, He, Lehem, Halevena, Li Aven, We Ha Chamar, Haya, Lahem, Lihomer. And they said and kept on saying, each one unto his neighbor, unto his friend, actually his companion, keep on coming. Keep on coming. Let us make brick for ourselves. See, that's cohortive in meaning. See that, Brother Roger? Mm-hmm. That's first person construct plural, cal, cohortive in meaning. That means what? Volition, volitative confirmation of that verb. Let's make 4 bricks, literally, 4 bricks. That's what it says there, 4 bricks, or stone. Let us burn. Let us burn for a burning, or for burning. And it became to them the brick in the place of stone. And the asphalt, it became to them for mortar. So now we have this building. Now they're going to use asphalt in between, which is a good sealer, isn't it? Really good. When asphalt becomes hard, it's blacktop highway. So that's pretty rough, wasn't it? Pretty good. Do you know that one time in Los Angeles, down there, that was the first place that we ever had paved streets in America, was Los Angeles? Paved streets with blacktop. All the roofs in Los Angeles were paved with blacktop. They were all sealed with blacktop, and they got it out of La Brea tar pits. And they would have ox carts with ox pulling down, and they'd have these barrels in there, and the barrels would be leaking as they would go down the road, and it was laying blacktop on the roads. So they had paved highways, paved roads, paved roofs, and paved roads. And after that was leaking out, say, well, you know what? That's a pretty good way to make these roads. They're not quite so slippery in the rain and all this. Well, blacktop is pretty good. Now, I want you to see what's going on here in this verse. Wayomeru, Hava, Nineveh, Nivne, Lanu, Migdol, Wirosho, Bashamayim, Winashe, Lanu, Shem. Say Shem real loud. Let that one jump out to you. Shem. Pen. Nophets. All. Panay. Kal Haaretz. We have here a total rebellion against God. This is a rebellion against God. Absolute rebellion against God. Look at your dispensational chart up there. Look at this chart. Now we have the flood. Right there we have the age of innocence. We have the curse and the death. We have the age of conscience. We have the flood where God destroyed all mankind and animals off the face of this earth and started all over again. And now what happens to this human race? They're contaminated again. Now we're going to, the Hamites are going to rest from the hand of Shem, the spiritual realm. Nimrod. He wrests the baton of the spiritual realm from him. And what was it supposed to do here? The responsibility was what? Scatter, multiply. They didn't scatter, and the confusion of the languages came and the division of the earth. They did not scatter and multiply. Genesis 8:15 through 9 and 7. If you read Genesis 8:15 through 9 and 7, you'll find that God said, go out and depend on me to take care of you and live a nomadic life, because you know what? That's the best life. That's the best life. Don't we like to go camp? Don't we like to go camp? Instead, we want to sit down and settle. God says, scatter and multiply, scatter and multiply. And they built a giant city. Let's look at it. And they said and kept on saying, give, or come. Come, let us build for ourselves. Look at that volition there again, that cohortive. First person construct, plural, cohortive in meaning. City, er. What does the er mean, Brother Roger? Er. A walled, watched area. Walled and guarded area. That's a city, a walled and guarded area. Do you know that in the land of Palestine and in Israel, all through the land, that people did not live on their farms? They didn't live on farms. We live on farms. We have farmhouses today. But back in that period of time, if you lived on your farm, you were without protection. So at nighttime, you took your donkeys, you took your animals, and you went to a city, and you lived in your house in the city that was a walled, protected city. Er. That means watch. And this is where we get the word roe from, is this a word, and that means shepherd or to watch. A shepherd is a watcher. The Lord is my watcher, is my shepherd. Migdol. Okay, and a tower. And then it says, and the rosh, the head of it, the top of it, in the heavens. They built this tower up to the heavens. It was real tall. But it means more than, it's a Bashamayim, but what does the heaven stand for? Where is the abode of God? In heaven, the third heaven, we know. It's in the abode of God is in the third heavens. And so this was real high monument. And it stood so nobody would lose sight of where they were. You can always, whenever you go out in your farms and everything, look back. There is your God, and there is your city. They were resting the baton, the administration of God's kingdom from the hands of Shem. These are the Hamites. In heavens, and let us make for ourselves, for us, a name, a monument, a pillar, a religion. That's religion right there. Religion. That's a play on the name of Shem, isn't it? Let us become Shemites. Let's take the authority from Shem. Let's wrest from Shem the authority between God and man. Now let's back over here and look over here now. We have Shem in the spirit realm. We have Ham in the physical and material realm. What did they do? They're first men to build cities. First men to build great big buildings. The first builders and architects were the Hamites. And then the mind and the soul of man is the Japhethites. This is where you think. When I say soul, I don't mean spirits,
Right.
the spiritual part of it. It is the thinking.
So did the priests of the Levites come through the Shem?
Oh, yes. They're Shemites through Abraham. Okay? They're Shemites. Now, right here, who do we have on the land? We have Noah and his Ham, Shem, and Japheth. We have the origin of the three races. We have the Mongoloids, Negroids, and the Caucasoids, don't we? There are how many races of man are there? Three. Three races of man. That's all there is. Trace your DNA, you're going to go back to these places. That's physical science. That's what we call DNA science. Shem was the son who would be the monument to God's name. But those impostors were trying to usurp his birthright and destroy and his destiny, destroy his birthright, his destiny, according to God's will. Satan has always tried to copy and imitate God's truth, but on a way that will take the true glory due to God and apply it to another. What's Muhammad mean? The praised one, the glorious one. Who is the only praised one and glorious one? Jesus. False religion, paganism, that always exacts more from its subjects than God does. How do you get to heaven? How do you get to heaven? According to Catholic, how much you do. How much you do, how much you pray, according to their religion. And they will go to the Vatican. They will go over there and they will get down on their knees and they will spread glass particles and they'll crawl on with their hands and knees on the glass particles up the steps that Constantine's mother had moved over there, supposedly the ones Jesus walked on. And they will do that gladly to get to heaven. They will take and they will flagellate or beat themselves. They will take and they will put chains around their legs and tighten them up till they bleed so they can suffer to get their way to heaven. People will beat their bodies. They will kill themselves. They will kill their children to be forgiven of their sins. But what's God asked you to do? Believe and trust in His work, not in what you can do, not in what some religion can do. False religion always exacts more from its subjects than God does. False religion always enslaves its subjects. Jesus said, "Come unto me and become a slave." What did He say? Come unto me and what?
I'll give you rest.
I'll give you rest and I'll set you free. I'll set you free. The freedom is in the truth, and the truth shall set you free. True religion always sets free Satan's slaves. We're all slaves to Satan, aren't we? We are. But God sets us free. This was total open rebellion. Total open rebellion. Now, if you ever wanted to talk about a segregation of the races and have a biblical grounds on it, this would be it. But why didn't these Anglo-Saxons, these white people, why didn't they go here? Why didn't they go here?
Because it wasn't obvious. Because they didn't study.
They didn't study, for one thing, okay. But what else? What's it going to tell them when they go here? They're not the masters of mankind. That they're lacking, aren't they? They're lacking. They may have brains and genius, but they're lacking in the spiritual realm, and they're lacking in the material realm. However many of you have ever heard of Jack Johnson? He was a world champion boxer. Matter of fact, he lived in Bakersfield for a while, right downtown Bakersfield, old downtown Bakersfield. And he lived with a white woman openly. He just thought he was free. The greatest boxer of all time. He would fought. He was so fast, had such powerful punches, it was nothing. He just beat men right and left, right and left, right and left. They got giants to fight him. And he whipped them, just beat the tar out of them. Beat the tar out of them. The great white hope. The white race could not stand for a black man to have power over them in any place. But if he only read the Bible, who is the master of the material and the physical realm? The Hamites. Were they trying to usurp what God had put down in stone? That he had put down in the races of man? Who is the greatest, who is the most physical, who is the master of the physical world? The Hamites. Who were the greatest engineers? They still couldn't do what those Hamites did down in Egypt and in South America, could they, in Mesoamerica, build these pyramids and stuff, and absolutely perfect. They had invented the zero in mathematics in America. Of course, you know, the Smithsonian Institute was run by these Anglos too. They would not allow any ancient archaeological finds in America to be publicized because they didn't want to admit America was the heaviest populated place in the world. And the sciences were greater in America. They had produced genetically engineered corn and beans and chilies and potatoes and tomatoes. They took a noxious poison plant and made it edible. In Europe, they were starving to death with wheat and barley. In the Columbian chains, they took things over there. In America, who discovered, according to your school books, who discovered America? Columbus. Did Columbus discover America? That's the biggest foolish statement in the world. No, he didn't. What Columbus started was a Columbian exchange. He brought disease here, and he took food there. The gift of America to Europe was they weren't going to starve to death anymore. Mankind has never starved to death because there's lack of food, have they? It's always over politics and what? War, politics, and greed. That's what has starved the world to death. There's plenty of food in the world. The earth produces plenty of food. And the Europeans came here and they were going to make farmers out of the Indians. You know what a laughing joke that is? What they wanted to do is take the land that they had. Japhethites. Every place the Japhethites went, they did this. They usurped the people, they brought in, and they transplanted their world here. Before 1880, there was not a Russian thistle in America. Did you know that? That's tumbleweeds. They brought noxious weeds to this country. Noxious weeds. Why was Europe so cursed of God? Scatter and multiply. They didn't do it. They wouldn't do it. And here is the first usurping, the first rebellion right here. And it comes from the Hamite people. Comes from the Hamites. Later on, the Japhethites are going to commit the same sins. Same sins. And the Shemites. Let's look at this now. Let's study a little bit more, a little bit further. Let's go read another verse. 11 and verse 5. Why ye read? Hadavar, Leroth, Et, Ha'er, We'et, Ha-Migdol, Asher, Banu, B'nai, Ha'adam. And he came down Jehovah. How many Jehovahs are there? One. Who is he? Jesus. Hadavar is what I translated there. It is these 4 Hebrew consonants. That is the personal name of God. And who is this guy? Who is the person of God? Who is the physical person of God? Jesus. Okay? Jesus stood in his what we call pre-incarnate form here on the earth. Pre-incarnate. When did God become flesh? And why? When and why did God become flesh?
Flesh of Jesus at the birth.
God became flesh at the birth of Jesus.
And why was so...
Why? John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he's going to redeem the whole universe back to himself through the person of Jesus Christ. And this plan goes all the way back to eternity past, doesn't it? Now let's go on a little bit further. And he came down, Jehovah. Now this isn't Elohim, this is Jehovah. Now this is the Redeemer. This is the covenant God, the covenant-keeping God. To see, cal infinitive construct, to see, liroth, to see, this see with his eyes. Et, sign of the direct object, the first and last letter of the Hebrew alphabet in it. Aleph and Tau. Ha'er, the city, the watched place. And then we et, and the tower, Ha-migdol, Ha-migdol, which they had built. It's done. That is, third person construct, plural, cal, perfect. Was the tower built, Roger?
Mm-hmm.
It's finished. It's not in the process of being built. How many Sunday school stories you had? They were building the Tower of Babel and God stopped them before they could get it finished. Is that heresy? Oh yeah, it is. It's heresy. It's not true. They had it built. It's done. And then it said sons of mankind. Sons of mankind. The human race. These are the sons of mankind. And basically, who are these rascals? The Hamites. Now, you might have a little Japhethites in there. You might even have a few Shemites with this bunch. But all of them are rebels, aren't they? Now, God has never been able to trust in one race of man all of the attributes of mankind. I want you to understand that. Spiritual, physical, and mental. What would you have? A monster right here. This is a monster. This is a monstrosity right here. This is false. What did they do? They know how to build. What did they do here? They made slaves out of people, didn't they? False religion always enslaves people, doesn't it? In Africa, why, when they took the African slaves over here, they had been slaves in Africa already, most of them. And those Africans over there, they caught some slaves and they brought them and they sold them to the slave traders. And of course, there were some slave traders that went out there and caught some too, later. But originally, these were all slaves that they're selling off. And they take them over here, and there's more Indian slaves in America, and these are Hamites also, but there's more Indian slaves in America than there ever were black slaves. I remember one time in America when there was a census, there were 700 black slaves and 150,000 Indian slaves. Now, that's quite a difference, isn't it? Quite a difference. 750 black slaves and over 100,000 Indian slaves. That's a lot. And that didn't even count the West Coast, because the West Coast was all slaves. All Indians on the West Coast were slaves, and who put them under slavery? Huh? Who?
Spanish government.
Yeah, the Spanish government under Catholicism. East Coast, they tried to treaty with the Indians and trick them mentally. Okay, there's your Japhethites. And on the West Coast, these same Japhethites are over here doing what? Enforcing religion which they don't have a right to. In all reality, because it's false religion. Really, the Japhethites have taken the baton after the Jews rejected the gospel. But this is false religion. And what's it doing? It's enslaving the Hamites. Do you see? We see here a perversion, an absolute demonstration of rebellion against God with false religion. Does religion actually enslave people? True religion? No. Marx and Khrushchev and all them said religion was the opiate of the pit masses of the people. True religion is freedom. It's freedom. True religion is absolute freedom. Let's go and read something. Genesis 8:15 through 9:7 real quick. I want you just to see this. And God spoke to Noah, saying, Go out of the ark, you and your son, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing of all flesh that is with you, birds, animals, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. And they may breed abundantly on the earth, and be fruitful and multiply on the earth. So Noah went out, his sons and his wife, and his sons' wives with him. And every beast and every creeping thing and every bird and everything that moves on the earth went out by their families from the ark. And Noah built an altar to the Lord, and took of every clean animal and every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. Now this is why they took 7 pairs of all the clean animals. And the Lord smelled the soothing aroma, and the Lord said to himself, I will never again curse the ground on account of man, or for the intent of man's heart is evil from his youth, and I will never again destroy every living thing that I have done. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. And then in verse 1 it says, And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said to them, Be fruitful, multiply, and spread out. Fill up the earth. Now, by the way, did the Japhethites, did the Hamites do that? Did the Hamites do this? Think. Who were the ones that went the furthest?
The Hamites.
Who did God bless the best? The Hamites. Without disease. They were the ones without disease. They were the ones that had plenty. They are the ones that lived the longest. They are the ones that went way out. They went to China. They went to the Americas. They went to the South Pacific. They went to Australia and New Zealand and all of those countries. They went out into those countries. And they lived long lives, many of them, and free lives. They lived off the land and with the land. Learned a lot. We've learned a lot from the medicine of those people. We learned a lot from them. The North American Indians were probably the most blessed, because the North American Indians didn't enslave anybody like Meso and South America did, because they just repeated what was in Egypt, didn't they? And in Egypt, there was the greatest mathematicians. In Egypt, there was the greatest doctors. In Egypt, they had the greatest sciences and the greatest education. And what happened? Alexander the Great, the Roman Empire. Who are they sons of? Japheth. Do you understand? Who came to America? The Japhethites. What did they do to America? What did they do to Australia? What did they do to New Zealand? What did they do to South America? What did they do to Mesoamerica? What did they do?
Took it over and
Can one race of mankind be trusted with all the triune abilities of man? No. God never could trust them with all that. They would do another Tower of Babel. And what are they doing today? What's going on today? What's happening in the world today? And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, Be fruitful, multiply, and spread out. And the fear of you and the terror of you shall be on every beast of the earth, and on every bird of the sky, and with everything that creeps on the ground, and all the fish, and all the sea. Into your hand I give it. That means that all of these will have great respect for mankind and fear, and mankind will have dominion over it. He'll have sovereignty over the earth, because God again is placing the sovereignty of his creation in man's hands. Now do it right, he says, this time. And every moving thing that is alive shall be food for you. This is the first time that God has ever allowed mankind to literally and lawfully eat anything of another living, breathing soul. And all of these animals have souls in them. They are basar, they are nephesh, and they are ruah, aren't they? I mean, I don't care. A lot of people try to make animals do well in nature, physical and spirit only. And when they die, the spirit goes back and gets reincarnated. Will we believe in reincarnation? No. But even Christianism does this. It's got this idea. I gave it all to you, and I gave it as I gave you the green plant. Only you must not eat the flesh of its life, of its soul. What keeps the soul in an animal? The blood. So you don't eat the blood. And all of these heathens do what? Drink the blood. Over in Africa, they take the sacred cow and poke a hole in the arteries and neck and drink it, don't they? In defiance of God. And surely I require your lifeblood from every beast. I will require it. And from every man's brother, I will require it. You eat the blood of an animal, I'm going to kill you. That's death penalty. You don't respect the animal that you kill, you die. That's death penalty. We don't think about that, do we? We forgot it. Whoever sheds man's blood, by his blood shall be his head. For in the image of God made he man. And as for you, be fruitful and multiply, populate the earth abundantly, and multiply in it. Then God spoke to Noah with his sons. Now behold, myself, I will establish my covenant with you, and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature, every living thing, every living soul that is with you, the birds, the cattle, every beast of the earth, and with you, and all that comes out of the ark, even every beast of the earth. Now, did God make this covenant with mankind only? No. With what? With all the creatures of nature, this covenant. Let's find out what it is. And I establish my covenant with you, and all flesh shall never again be cut off by the water of the flood, neither shall there again be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, this is the sign of the covenant which I am making between me and you and every living creature that is with you for all successive generations. And I will set my bow in the cloud. That's the rainbow. Every time you see a rainbow, that's God's sign of the covenant. And it shall be a sign for a covenant between me and the what? And the whole earth. And it shall come about that when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the clouds. And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and between you and every living creature of all flesh. And never again shall the water become a flood to destroy all flesh. Now, floods have killed many people, but not the whole earth. The first time God sent the flood on the earth, by the way, the earth was Pangea, wasn't it? God wanted a Pangea, and that was the earth was different. Now, we've got the Pyrenees, we've got the Alps, we've got the Rockies, we've got the Appalachians. We have these ones right up here.
Sierras.
The Sierras. I couldn't think of that name. We've got all of these, don't we? Were they alive? Were they living? Were they existing here at this period of time? No, the earth was going to be divided. How many of those mountains were really mountains over there? I don't know. But the whole earth was divided. The earth was split up. In the days of Peleg, God divided the earth. It tells you that. Have you learned something tonight? Can God trust one race of mankind with all the attributes? Could he trust the angels with all the attributes? Wow! Did we learn that? Could he trust the spirits with all these attributes? There are spirits over the material realm. There are spirits over the spiritual realm. There are spirits over the mental realm. There are angels over the spiritual realm. Michael, Lucifer was over the material realm, and Gabriel was over the mental realm, the intellectual realm. And mankind, we have Japheth over the intellectual realm. We have Hamite over the material realm. And I didn't hardly get into much of that stuff tonight. And then we have Shem over the spiritual realm. Does that turn the light on just a little bit? Just a little bit?
I have a question.
Yes.
Would the what you're saying, so the God not trusting one race between the Shem and the Ham and the Japheth with all of his attributes,
Yeah.
would somebody use that as a reason for not intermarrying?
Yeah, you could. They didn't think of it. But now we have an amalgamation of the races, don't we?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm looking at all that and I'm thinking, now we see different nations with these attributes, not just
What are some of the greatest inventors in the world? Who were some of the greatest inventors in the world?
Jewish people.
No, not the Jewish. Who were some of the greatest inventors in the world?
Chinese.
German?
The Chinese, which were Hamites. They invented all the original deal. The Shemites made money on it. God said they're going to prosper no matter what they do, and the Japhethites are going to perfect it. They'll take those original inventions and they will do something with them. They'll go beyond what the original inventors did. The Japhethites, as far as I know in history, and as far as Arthur C. Custis could find in history, never invented one single solitary thing. They never invented anything. What they did was discover what the Hamites had done. Who were the men that created mathematicians? Who were the mathematicians? They were the Hamites. All of this. The Japhethites perfected it, didn't they? That's all they did. They perfected it. They stole it, perfected it, and manipulated the rest of mankind.
Now, are these three brothers, because I have heard somewhere, and I don't know where I've heard or even if it's right, were these the three, like, we pretty much, we're all one race as far as...
We're all from Noah.
Right, but I mean, with the three colors, like the brown, the black, the white, is this...
That's
the
basically who
division?
they are.
Okay.
And all of the Hamitic races are yellow, red, or black. Basically. Okay? Yellow, red, or black. The Japhethite races go from, some of them have brown eyes even. Who's the Japhethites with the brown eyes? Many of them. The Greeks. Northern Greek, because of blue eyes and blonde hair. Northern Europe. The further north you get, the taller they get, and the lighter their hair and the bluer their eyes, so to speak. And they were the marauders, weren't they? But they went and they took over the things. Who were the Russians? Who are the Russians?
Sort of the Vikings.
The Vikings. They went down there and took over Russia. The Vikings did. What's Viking mean? What's Viking? It was a verb. It became a noun.
It's I know what Viking is. It's a big sword or something.
It meant a big hatchet and kill. It meant to kill. It meant chop and to slaughter. That's what it meant. Yeah. That's why those Russians are so rough.
That's why their women look like men.
Yeah. The Russian army, the ones that guarded Stalingrad, was female troops. World War II.
So the Shemites are
The Jews.
the Jews and
The name. Now, we found out in the 9th chapter of the book of Genesis that after the cross of Calvary, things are going to change. That Shem, that Japheth is going to dwell in the tents of Shem, so the Japhethites would take over the gospel. We're talking about the true gospel now. We're not talking about Catholicism. We're not talking about Anglican Church. We're not talking about any of these other churches. We're talking about the truths. The true gospel. They were going to take, because the true gospel never was a church-state existence. All of your Protestant people came out of the Catholic Church. I've always taught in church history that Baptists are not Protestants. Baptists are not Protestants. Baptists did not come out of the Catholic Church. Baptists coexisted with Catholicism all the time it existed, and it existed before it ever was. We know that. I can prove that to you historically through any history book, except one written for our colleges. That's different. My students would go to college, and they would teach their teachers. Ken Blinn wanted to get his master's degree in education, and now he's a missionary in Utah. And some of you have met Ken and Alma. They come here. Ken went to Bakersfield College, went to Cal State. He went out to Cal State, and he took history courses, and that was the history of religion, what we call church history. And at his final exam, I think his bachelor's degree or whatever he's going to get there, he asked him if he could write a paper on why Baptists are not Protestants. He said, that's not true. He said, let me write the paper. If you'll let me write the paper, you just see what I say. and grade me accordingly. That's not what the book says. And he said, well, let me just do it. And he went and proved his point totally. He got A+. Got an A+. And his teacher said, you know what, Baptists aren't Protestants, are they? But he said, that's what our textbook says. But are all textbooks right just because it's printed in black and white? No. Might even have red letters in there, but it doesn't mean it's going to be true. Blue letters, whatever color letters you put in there. Orange, green, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just because it's printed doesn't mean anything. That's somebody's opinion. Well, he got the truth across, and he proved that Baptists were not Protestants. The truth has never persecuted, prosecuted, nor manipulated people to become them. We preach the gospel. Do we not? I preach the gospel. I don't try to force anybody to believe. And many times when people, after they believe, they come and they decide they want to be baptized. And I said, you sure you want to do that? Because with it comes responsibilities. Because you're a member of a church. You're going to act like a church member. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. This is the things you're going to do. You're going to support the ministry. You're going to do all this stuff. You really want to do this? Brother Madden used to try to talk people out of joining the church. He said, I don't want to see you quit the church and go on and leave. Better you just don't ever do it. Either get with it or leave, one or the other. Yes, you ought to be baptized. That's the first right. That's the first work of righteousness you can do. Yeah, you ought to be a church member. You ought to be a member of a real New Testament church. Real one. That's what you ought to do. But that's between you and God. I'll preach you the gospel. I'll preach you the truth. But it's up to you. God made you a sovereign individual, didn't he? Isn't that what Genesis 1:26 says? The Trinity of humankind, of mankind. The Trinity of the races. That's quite a story. Now, I guess you don't remember this the last time, do you?
I wasn't in.
No, you weren't here. You didn't. Did you get it? Did you get it? You think about it for a while? Just keep on thinking about it. Because it's beautiful. You can learn a lot of things when you study God's Word. You'd be surprised how it'll change your theology sometimes. Southern Baptists wouldn't have hear this 100 years ago at all. They'd have taken me out, tarred me and feathered me, and set a cross on fire if I preached this. They wouldn't have. 100 years ago, 150 years ago, they'd done the same thing. Does that mean they're right or wrong? They just didn't. Did they have the same Bible I've got? Did they have the same rights to study it and look at it and see the same things I've seen? Sure they did. So many times people put colored glasses on when they look at the Bible, so they want it to teach what they believe. What they believe. What they practice. Do you practice what's there or not? Do you? Not all the time, Brother Roger.
Along that line, is there any need for the multiply?
Do what?
It says scatter and multiply.
Yes.
Is there any need for multiplication anymore? I mean, we got 6 billion, 7 billion folks.
Well, the Muslims are doing a real good job.
Right.
They got 4 wives at least, and all the concubines and sex slaves that they can afford and have all the kids they want to have. The Catholic Church did the same thing. Muslim and Catholics? Why do you have so many Catholics? No birth control. That's a sin, isn't it? You can't have sex unless you're going to make a baby in the Catholic Church. When your wife can't have babies anymore, oh no, verboten. Get another one. Have you a concubine have some babies. That's the only reason you can have sex in the Catholic Church is to multiply. Now, the Bible tells you that you have sex for your pleasure and for the person so you love each other. That's what you have sex for. You make babies in the meanwhile. Isn't that wonderful? Did they enslave these people? Did they enslave them? I remember I went to a guy one time, and I was in this appliance store, and he come up there, and he was a brother of one of my former church members that's dead. And he's all blah, blah, blah. I went to a Catholic retreat, and I went out there, and the friar was telling us, oh, we were there with our wives and everything, and don't you do that. That's verboten. No sex. No sex, no sex. 1123, they invented the doctrine of celibacy. And what do the Buddhists do? No sex. That's what it's all about. Controlling manipulation of the masses. The Muslims are having all the babies they can have to try to populate the world. The Catholics were doing the same thing. That's what happened. The same philosophy, isn't it? And then divide and conquer. Also, that's all in this Trinity of Humankind and the philosophy of religion, Trinity of Humankind, all of this in here. All right. You ready to go out and do something eternal? Go out and share what you learned tonight? Are you? All right. Christine, you want to dismiss us in prayer?
Sure. Heavenly Father, I just